So I'm Alex Clark. I run the Scalewas group with Ryan Scalewas. And today the class is titled Building on Top of a Marketing Plan. But I think that what I want to kind of address is that everybody's marketing plan and everybody's process is different, because I think that a disservice to all agents and everybody kind of out there is that you go to coaches and they have like this one-stop shop, like this is going to help everybody. Like, oh, if you just do this, it's going to work. If you just make cold calls, it's going to work. If you just door knock, it's going to work. And then you see an industry where 90% of agents don't clear like a livable wage, and it's why is that? Like, why is it that some people succeed and some people don't? And genuinely, I don't believe it has anything to do with ability. I think it has to do with direction and perspective in this industry and what we're here to do. So I think that to start for anybody in creating a prospecting plan or anything to do in this industry is, what is your objective? What is your intent in what you're doing, right? And one of the things that I work with my agents, and I feel
not close the door. Sorry about it.
I do feel like you need to be qualified to speak on this, because I'm agents, and I love to highlight my agents individually. But I'm an agent that came to me as a $4 million agent. He works for, he's been in the industry for 5+ years. He's a very excellent agent, and was stuck at $4 million for 3 years. And in the first 6 months, with some guidance, is going to do about $8.5 million in 6 months. He's on track for about 15 in his next full year. So in his first 18 months, but month 6 through 12, we're tracking like $15 million. This guy's tripling his business, not because he's learned the industry differently, but he's more intentional with what he does, and he's more aligned with his plan moving forward. So the marketing plan or prospecting plan or how you run your business is really individualized. But I think what we can do here, instead of putting things up on the screen and telling you to make a certain number of calls or do an open house or whatever it is, we can kind of dive into what you guys are doing, right? Just like I would do with my agents. What are you guys doing? What is working? What is not working? And I can help fix it. Like, I really can. And I have another agent on my team, Julie, who last year did $1.1 million in 12 months. She's been on my team for going on 4 months now. It's obviously there's a startup period. So, I don't want to say she's doing, she's closed $3 million in business, but her average price point last year was $258,000, right? So she did about 4 to 5 transactions at $250,000 to be $1.1 million. This year, in the first 3 months, she has $3 million+ clients under contract, signed, out on trips. So, why has she learned the business in 3 months, or has she figured what's effective to go after her type of clientele? So let me take Julie's process real quick, tell you what happened, and then we can kind of go through. I think we should interact and go through some of your guys' process to find if we can align with this strategy. So Julie's a very educated, excellent agent, hustler, young woman who is, well beyond her years and where she wants to be and the work that she puts into it. However, she had a lot of interest in interior design, a lot of interest in like this higher, like this education mentality and this higher, she wants to create groups for like women empowerment. She wants to do all of these things that are just wasn't necessarily aligned with the clientele, right? Like my first question to her was, what client hires an interior designer? Is it a $250,000 client, or is it $1 million+ client, right? So if you're passionate and interested in interior design, and that's something you want to do in your business, why are you working in the $250,000 space? that person will never hire you for interior design. You will never walk into a $250,000 house and record social media content about architecture. No, I'll take that back. Interior design is too far. But in like cutting edge interior design. So I said, listen, if this is something that really is a passion for you, and you want to start a business with it, let's align ourselves to the clientele that would resonate with, right? So we started building up not only her knowledge of this high-end space, but also her knowledge of interior design and how to kind of educate and add value to clients through it. And she started doing these open houses and we created an open house process for her in this high price point area. And her passion for this interior design has resonated with her clientele. And she has people looking for that agent that has a little bit extra, right? Not just gonna open the door, but somebody who helps them redefine the space. Let's say it's an older $1 million home, Graduate Hospital. Hey, I really would love, this is dated, right? What can I do to get this where it needs to be, and adding that value? And she signed 3 clients over $1 million using that. So that's just the start. I fully believe, and my goal and Julie's goal this year is to do 8 million her first year with the team. We are on track to do that. And it really just starts with, what is my intention? Who is my clientele? Who am I going out to prospect? And why am I doing it? What do I expect from it? Right? Another really important thing about prospecting is understanding that the difference between doing the work and saying you're doing work, right? This hustle culture, hustle mentality in real estate is a cancer, and we need to stop it. Just because you're in the office late doesn't mean you're working late. Just because you're sitting down to make calls and not making calls doesn't mean you make calls, right? You need to self-audit your time and understand what you're actually doing, right? Most agents, I audit all my agents' time. What did you actually do last week and how many hours did it take? When people come onto the team, the average agent works about 15 hours a week, actual work. And you'd be surprised to hear that, but if you actually audit your time and say, yes, I sat down for calls for 2 hours. How many calls did I do? If you make 30 calls, if you really focus on the calls, it takes 70 seconds to call, get the voicemail, and then redial. So if you're making 30 calls and 30% of them picking up, that's 10 calls, 10 conversations. Those conversations are spanning 2 to 3 minutes, 90 seconds, right? So that's 30 minutes of conversations and another about a minute of call, 20. It's an hour to do 30 calls, right? So if you're doing 150 calls a week, some people will say that's a lot of prospecting. It's like 3-4 hours of calls. It's really not hard. But to most people, that's a big number. And they'll limp in with 30, 40 calls. Oh, well, I spent 6 hours on this. Well, did you really? Right? So we need to be intentional with what we do. We need to audit our time, and then we need to direct it in an area that'll produce results. So what I'd like to do is ask, please help me be vulnerable and say, what do you believe is your current prospecting strategy? And what are you attacking individually for you to get business? And how is it working so far? Can somebody be vulnerable and say how they're getting business?
So I will say I'm not attacking this. I won't even say that I have a system.
Okay.
But what I try to do routinely throughout the week is just circle back to the people that I've had conversations with, whether it be like via social media, someone like messaged me, like something, I'll just kind of like, that's like my, I guess, almost like CRM, because that's where I'll go back on Mondays and just kind of, hey, how was your weekend? Hey, this or whatever. So I wouldn't say I'm attacking it, because I'm sure there's a much higher level that I can make it more organized and really, kind of stay on track of who I'm talking to and how often I'm talking to them. But that's kind of what I'm doing. It has been successful, but like I said, I'm sure I could do it at a much higher level.
So these are people that are like just you're calling it in your CRM because you, in some way, shape, or form, made some type of connection with them.
Yes.
And you're just trying to figure out how you can convert that business.
Exactly.
Okay. So a couple things. That's excellent. Thank you for sharing. What is your, when you call them, what is your intent when you call them? What are you looking to do? What is your objective before you do anything? Because before you pick up a phone, before you get in a car, before you go to an open house, you gotta say, look, what is my objective and what I'm doing right now? Because if you're doing something just to do it, that's where that 30 minutes of calls turns into 2 hours. Right? So what is your objective when you're
So my intention really is to build a relationship with
Okay.
people that I don't know. So sometimes it's just like I said, just getting to know them.
Mhm.
I don't really like to jump right in with, I haven't got comfortable with just like getting straight to that point, unless someone comes to me and specifically asks about something pertaining to real estate. But generally my intention is just to get their buy-in, get them to know me to get to know them, have some connection so
Mhm.
that they're basically, I'm going to nurture them. And then as they connect more with me, they're going to see what I'm doing in real estate. And then I come back with a conversation about, hey, just so you know, this is what I do, blah, 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 something like that. I just did this recently with my dog groomer.
Mhm.
We just became, friendly through that. And then we became friends on social media. And then it just became messages about little things personal.
Mhm.
And then yesterday I hit her like, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I do. You ever know anybody, need anything, so forth. So that's kind of.
All right, I love that. You brought up a really great point that a lot of people feel, and you're gonna say it. I don't feel comfortable, or I didn't feel like I was ready to like kind of jump on them. Let's break that down because I think this is really important for everybody in this industry. The people you're talking to, what do they need from you? Right? This is an open question, not rhetorical. If somebody is of house buying age or in a life event that needs a house and you are speaking about real estate, what do they need from you?
Information.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say information, and if I can just really quickly, going back to your point on being intentional, like knowing what it is.
Mhm.
I think knowing who you're targeting, who you're looking for that day allows you to be more intentional.
Mhm.
So I know from prospecting for pre-foreclosures, I know exactly what they need when I call them, whether it's
Absolutely.
assistance with loan modification or whether it's.
So that's called task batching. We'll get to that. Task batching is very important. Getting everything that's of similar, all your phone calls done at one time, even if they're different people you're calling. Because then you're in the mode of, I'm doing all my phone calls down. I'm doing all my emails down. I'm calling, right? So we'll get to that. But intention of what are we talking to these people about? To answer the question for everybody, they need guidance, right? You know the real estate process. You know the loan process, you know the inspection process, and you know the sale process. They know nothing. They either are first-time buyers or they bought in the 90s, 80s, right? I love the parent that says, oh, my dad's gonna look at it. Well, when's the last time your dad bought a house? Well, in 95. And I'm like, well, great. Because my team did 100 deals last year, 120 something. Like, so if we're doing 10 a month, I'm pretty sure I'm more qualified to speak on this than your dad that bought once in the 90s, right? So when you understand that this job, real estate salesperson, is such a misnomer. If you are trying to sell something, then you're going to fail every single time. Because there's somebody that can trick somebody better than you. Even if you're the best salesperson in the world, I promise you, somebody can trick. As soon as you move this into education, as soon as you move this into value, as soon as you move this into guidance, and people are so afraid to take client control because they're worried I'm going to push that person away. There has never been an easier process for every one of my agents that when they start saying to clients, no, we're going to do this, and clients are just like, thank God somebody's taking control. Right? Thank God I don't have to do this. They have their own job, their own problems, their own worries. Your job is to make this process easy. And we're so careful to be like, oh, let me know when you need me. Like, I'm here when you're ready. No, this is what we're going to do. Then we're going to do this. Then we're going to do this. And then if you need a pause at that point, we'll pause. But I'm not going to, if you say, somebody's getting married. They're getting married in June. We're gonna wait till after the wedding. Why? Everybody says, okay, great, we're gonna wait till after the wedding. I'll call you back after the wedding. Why are we waiting till after the wedding? Well, we're waiting till after the wedding because it's stressful. Well, do you have a wedding planner? No, we can't afford one. Would you have a wedding planner if they were free? Yeah, I would love a wedding planner if they're free. Well, I'm a wedding planner for houses. I literally am free. More often than not, the seller pays my commission, right? And I work for you. I'll get everything organized. I'll put it on a plate and you pick what you want. Does that sound good? How does somebody object to that? Right? I'm gonna work for you. You don't have to stress about this at all. Let me get you prepped, right? Would you want to not know your reception a couple weeks before you buy that house? Right? So when you start framing this in a standpoint of, and I know we're talking about prospecting, but I think the most important part is anybody you prospect, you need to be able to take that control and provide that value to that type of person. And that type of value is specifically catered to who you're calling, right? So it's a great transition back into that. Who you're calling and why you're calling. So if you're building a business and you're building a business based on, I want you to like me, and then maybe you'll transact to me. I kind of say, I say this to my agents, but I don't care if you like me. Everybody loves money. I'm very good at making you money. I'll go out there and make you money, and then you'll like me after the fact when you're making money, right? Like I literally don't care. Do you love your financial advisor? Do you love your mechanic? Is your mechanic good at fixing your car? You're pissed at your mechanic. It costs a lot of money every time you go there, right? Are they good at what they do? People will always come back to the person that's good at what they do. They got to remember the people they like, right? So get all this salespeople, all this let me be your friend stuff out and get insane amounts of value and guidance in, because it's always going to turn into referrals, right? I don't prospect business anymore. Ryan on my team does not prospect business anymore. People just come back to us because it's all referrals. So in order to do that, you have to guide people. So who do we guide? Prospecting, right? Who do we guide? Can somebody say primarily who their client base is right now? And if it's, anybody, who's your client base? Who do you target?
It's not even that I'm targeting them.
Yes.
We work with 3 different first time buyers right now.
Okay.
And one of them is like really giving me a hard time because she's just very nervous and blah, blah, blah. So, but they came to me. I didn't find them.
How did they come to you?
So when I was on the other team, we did, we were doing Zillow leads, and there 2 of them came to me. I just stayed in touch with them, and now they're finally ready. And then I found the other guy from one of my listings.
Okay. So you listing being that they called you up to sign and they open house?
They saw the listing and they saw the listing. It was me. They called me and they said, thinking about buying this, but they were first time home buyer and it's an investment property. And I'm like, you want this property? Like, it's going to need a lot of work. It's one
Okay.
And that turned into me educating the person on first time home buying and what you would want, where you want to be, et cetera, different loan options for first time home buyers. So got pre-approved and we're all looking for houses now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
How you leverage? Do you want to work with first time home buyers?
No.
Then okay. So that's a great answer. I love that answer.
Yeah.
So you don't want to work with first time home buyers. So this is really important. If that's not where you want to build your business, it's okay to say no to business, right?
Yes and no. Yes and no.
Yes,
I hear you. But for me right now,
Mhm.
I can't say no. Maybe in 6 months, a year. But for right now, I gotta.
I know that's a really hard transition, so
Yeah.
I'll go back to Julie again, right? She came on the team and we burned $750,000 in leads right away. I said, let this go, trust me, I will replace them. But your $250,000 leads that are all over the city that have you driving out to look at properties that need a lot of renovation, or the person is, wishy-washy, you've been out with them for 3 months. I can take all that time you're spending on that and we can prospect the people you want. The people that are going to create, because what's gonna happen is, what referrals can you get from first-time home buyers?
More buyers.
More first-time home buyers,
Right.
right? Because everybody is the people they hang out with. If you do first-time home buyer, $250,000 houses in Philadelphia, their friends are first-time home buyer, $250,000 houses. So why are we building businesses we don't want to service? Right? It's really, really hard to come to that because the money's there and they're in big chunks in these checks, right? So it's really hard to say no to it.
Yeah.
But what we need to do is realize that the money's not made once you have a client, right? Like if you have a client and they're buyer intake and they're pre-approved and you're out on showings, it's really almost, man, I hate to say this, it's really almost your fault if they don't close. Right, like there's aside from a death in the family or losing a job, like that's client control and guidance. So that's maybe another conversation at another time. This is Julie, by the way. We've talked a lot about your process, and I'll let you talk about it. But like I'm off topic, but that client control is really important to kind of push into additional prospecting because you want to build this business that you want to service, right? So we just were talking about how we built your business on the business that you want to service, right? Going into a luxury interior design type client of somebody that would use that type of service or appreciate the type of service. And you've got to take a step backwards to take a step forward. So letting go of low dollar clients that you may already have intaked and out on shelves to say, listen, I gotta go and create this process. So I asked them, I said, listen, where do you get your business from? And who are you currently servicing? And we've had some great responses, but I want to just quickly take it so it's not me speaking it at you guys, because this works. And I know I know that it's hard for somebody to tell you, drop your business, go focus here, right? But for somebody that's done it, where do you think that the value in having intention and having a plan to prospect the people you want to work with and not chase the business that you keep getting?
Yeah, I think that for me, kind of like coming in, like there's you're getting a lot of information from a lot of different directions of like you should cold call, you should do this. Like there's a million and one things that you can do to prospect. So going into it and just kind of chasing a transaction, like that's really what it was. It was chasing a check. So seeing as how I was doing that at the beginning of my career and transitioning into a team that really prioritizes one method of prospecting, intentional prospecting of what it is that the clientele that you want to service. For me, I knew I wanted to be in the luxury market. I just didn't think that I was capable of doing so because the price point, it's so big, it's intimidating. And it's a mindset shift. It's when you know the market, and Alex has just about taught me everything I know at this point, even though I just joined the team in September. But I feel like the confidence level and my market expertise, like my knowledge, it's just grown so much because you're around the right people. And I think that's what matters as well, because it's like you can do the prospecting activity, but if you're not surrounded by people who also align with what it is that you want to work towards, and they support you and they try to understand you and they try to figure out what you're doing wrong, then it's kind of like you don't know where you're going wrong until you have somebody call you out for it. So I think that with intentionality and a mindset shift and dropping my limiting beliefs of that this price point is too high, I have to work these $200,000 clients, which is okay if that's what your clientele is. It's just didn't feel like it was mine. I had to be okay with letting go of that idea that I had to work this for years and years, because Alex was like, okay, you're working this price point for years and years. At what point do you think that clientele will shift? Because then you're just building a client database with these price points. Like it doesn't shift.
Creates referrals at those price points, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody's aging at the same rate, right? And also getting in and out of, I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
No.
Yeah,
go ahead.
so Julie brought up a bunch of really great points. One of those points were aligned with not being in sales, but being in education. She didn't feel like she could work with multi-million-dollar clients because she didn't feel like she was ready. But the process is the same, right? It's understanding product. Product is the important thing. And another thing that I think that we don't do as agents as much as we should is you're selling a home, right? You're not selling the sale of a home. So you need to understand that process. You need to understand the product. Do you understand plumbing? Do you understand framing? Do you understand electric? Do you understand insulation? Do you understand, different roof systems, right? Do you understand the private house? Do you understand, butyl roofs? Do you understand, why are you being hired over somebody else that can open the door? Right? And when you have that information, you have that education, you can prospect that to people, you can show that value to people in areas that you understand that product. Now, the beauty of the product in Philadelphia is it's a rental. It's rinse and repeat. It's way more difficult to do this in suburbs. Because now you gotta do wells, you gotta do septics, you gotta do, crawl spaces, you gotta do all of this stuff. A row home is party walls and joists between 12 and 18 feet wide, typically, in Philadelphia. It's so easy to understand this product. You don't have to walk into a residential home and say, that's a load bearing wall, that's look right. We don't have to become contractors. But if we can be educated in the product, then we can provide what guidance and client control through the process, because that's what they're looking for. Right? So in order to prospect these people, Julie felt, I'm not educated enough on this clientele, so I'm not going to go seek out this clientele. So she's educated herself and then went out. And how receptive were they?
At first, before I had the confidence and the market knowledge, I would say they weren't receptive simply because of my own approach. But the more that I did it and the more that I got acquainted with the neighborhoods, because when I first came in, I wasn't sure what neighborhoods I wanted to do. And now I've really pinpointed the areas that I feel the most comfortable in, where luxury townhomes pop up. And now that I've worked a minimum of 3 open houses for months on end consistently, I would say through that gain an increase of market knowledge, now I know how to better approach just the conversation. So through that, they are much more receptive simply because of your own confidence and your own demeanor.
So getting back to go ahead.
Thank you, Judy. So what is your definition of luxury in Philadelphia? It's different for different localities. What is the price point range would you say is the benchmark for luxury? The neighborhoods that you're doing the open houses in?
Yeah.
And how does the luxury in Philadelphia different than luxury in other markets like New York or DC or other geographies, not major cities?
So I can't speak for other cities because I'm not knowledgeable on that topic. I can speak for Philadelphia. I would set my minimum price range of $700,000, and then I go through every single day and look at what new listings come up onto the market. So it really is personal to each person. If you think that the home speaks to you, then for the most part, I that's what I kind of go by. If the home makes sense, if it's marketed well, because for me, it's about how the agent markets it too. So if I'm doing an open house for a property, I want to make sure the online presence is there to increase my buyer pool, my potential buyer pool. I would just say for me, it's a minimum value, and that's $700,000.
And we're looking in private hospital, right? So that's the area that
Private
she's doing. So
hospital.
700 to $1.5 million is that renovated townhome space in 19146, right?
So like
So-
Rittenhouse, Children Square, Bella Vista, Queen Village, it's pretty much everything that is above Washington, and just below, to the left side, Benjamin Franklin Parkway, and then everything, to the extent of McCall attachment. So as long as we're not surpassing that, then I'm down for it.
Well, so you've identified some neighborhoods, you've identified the price point. What are some aesthetics of luxury properties that you've seen in Philadelphia, and what are some of the characteristics of luxury clientele?
So I would say for the properties, it depends, right? Like, because I have I'm more inclined towards like more historic homes. I just think it's so charming and it's very, like, I love the character to it. While I also know that a lot of these luxury townhomes, they're coming up as new construction homes. So there's not really a typical characteristic of it. It's more so like, I mean, I guess like bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, it really is property to property. And for the clients, it's really like similar to these low price points. It's except for the fact that they're like, they just want someone to listen to them who is knowledgeable about the market and who cares truly about their best interests. That's what I've discovered. As long as you are able to truly be able to guide them and be a market expert and like
Product knowledge.
have product knowledge. Like there was this one open house, this guy came in and it was in Graduate Hospital at 1935 Pater, and he started listing on properties nearby. He was like, yeah, like let's go see the property. Like it was in front of Marion Emerson. And I was like, oh, like 769 South 18. And then like there was another property, and then I was able to list that address. So it's like as I'm working in these neighborhoods, I'm finding myself grow this knowledge and like know the listings in the market. And like that little tweak, it sets you apart because there's not a lot of people, and I think that would be able to list the listings that are currently in the neighborhood, especially just off of like a broad description, or like the home that has a lot of character, right? Like it's 766 20th Street with Macklin Bellows. So it's like there's little things that make a world of difference.
So Julie's bringing up some really important points. You can go do open houses, right? Everybody says go do open houses, go do cold calls. So let's just take open houses in general, right? We're gonna go do open houses. How many open houses? Well, I'm gonna do 2 in a weekend, right? Okay, you're gonna do 2 in a weekend. What is your intention when you're doing this open houses? Well, I'm gonna sit the open house and I'm gonna try to find somebody that wants to buy, right? Or I'm gonna try to sell this. I'm gonna try to find a buyer for this open house, right? For this one that's currently being sold. You're going to walk away with no clients every single time. You're gonna get lucky. You can always step in it, right? But if your intention is, I'm going to make it that if somebody gives me an objection that they don't, right? One of the objections we get at open houses, somebody comes in, I'm just looking, I'm not ready yet. This isn't the house for me. If those are the objections you get at the open house, that's it. You're gonna call them and try to get them to say, hey, did you like me? Right? Maybe we can get, and that's, I'm saying that in general, no shade, but like, you call them and you say, okay, well, we had a great conversation at open house. Do you want to work with me? Why? I've been at 7 open houses. Why would I work with you? Well, my intention is to go to that open house and say, okay, what are all, in the last 6 months, what are all under contract, pending, sold, and active in this price point? What are the objections I'm going to find in this open house? I want you to be the biggest critique of the product, right? Oh, well, the bedrooms are too small. Why are the bedrooms too small? That middle bedroom's too narrow. What's the width of the house? Is the house 14 wide, 15 wide with the side staircase? The house is 14 wide with the side staircase. First off, 14 wide home with the exterior framing goes down to about 12.6. Then you have a 3-foot staircase, goes down to 9.6. Then you have a 30-inch minimum hallway by code on rehab, 30 to 36. So now you're down to, that room is now 6 feet wide. That's why your room is so wide, it's so narrow. But when you tell somebody, the client doesn't know that, they're going to keep on walking into 14 wide homes and say, why are these rooms so small? So if you say, I'm going to go into your search and eliminate all 14s and 15s, we're only going to look at 16s because you want that room to be wider, you've now given them guidance they never would have been able to find. They've gotten to that next step. Oh, shit. If I only look at 16s or wider, my portal has gone from 80 properties to 30 properties. And I've gotten you deeper into your search through market knowledge, right? So I don't like this one because I want south facing home. If you know the south facing homes in the area, and you could say at that open house, what about this address? Is there a time you'd like to go see it? You're not trying to sell somebody on this home. You're trying to help them with their problem, right? You're trying to solve their problem, solve their objection. And if you're doing that, if you're coming into that open house with the intent of, I am here to help people get where they want to be, and I'm educated in the product, I can move that do open houses prospecting into, no, I'm there to get in front of people who are active in the market, who are looking to buy this price point in this neighborhood, right? That's the prospecting. I'm going to do open houses. Why are you doing open houses? You're doing open houses because you want to get a client in that price point. Somebody walking into that open house door is telling you so much about them. They are imminently interested in buying or selling. A lot of neighbors come to open houses, right? They are in this area, in this price point, in this square footage, and in this house type. If you're showing a new construction, they're probably looking for new construction. If you're showing something that needs a little bit of work, probably okay with a little bit of work, right? You're getting such a tight buyer group versus I met you somewhere and maybe you'll buy, or right, something like this. Let's go into life events. Go ahead.
What are you guys saying at the open house? Like, let's say the buyer comes in, the home, like, what do you guys say?
That's a great question. So what do you say when you start an open house? Because I know exactly what we did. How would you greet somebody at open house, and how do you take them through an open house?
I'll be honest, I don't do any open houses, so, but I introduce myself, hey, my name is Ryan, welcome to the open house, 123 Main Street. So I was just asking if you please sign in just for safety purposes, and then go from there.
I don't want to sign in right now. I'm just going to take a look at the house. What's your answer?
Yeah, I don't do anything.
I know, but let's just, I'm not sorry to put you on the spot, but right? Like, what's your answer?
Damn, I don't know.
Hey, I'm representative of the seller, and the seller has basically authorized me, if you don't sign in, they need to know who's been through the house. I'm not able to take it through something immediately. Like, if somebody's not signing into your thing, you think you're gonna get them as a client? No. Why are you wasting your time with them? Just like a low end buyer, or just like a sunk rate, like why are you wasting your time? Take control. People like when you take control. Hey, listen, this is how this works. Somebody comes into my open house, this is how I run it. So somebody comes into an open house. I have them, I say, hey, you know, and people say, hey, I'm Alex, I'm the KW, right? There's 3 bedrooms, 4 baths. They know what they're walking into, right? And they also have eyeballs. So like, we're not here to say the kitchen's pretty. We're not here to say there's parking, right? They're gonna walk the home, they're here. So they're coming in the house, they're saying, hey, listen, what I'd love you to do is I do a little bit of small talk. So I'll say like, is this your first open house of the day? Right? Because I want to know how many they're looking at. I say, where are you guys in the process? Right? You guys just started looking, or are you pretty deep? Because that also lets me know, do you have an agent? I never asked, do you have an agent? Because I've had a lot of people come through open houses with an agent who have left their agent. So if you ask if they have an agent and then you attack them, that's an ethics problem. If I just say, listen, I'm going to treat everybody the same, whether you have an agent or not, I'm going to hammer you with value, and if you decide that I have more value than your agent, then leave. Right? That's set, right? So they come in. I now know that they are just started looking. This is one of their first open houses of the day, and they're excited to get started. Cool. I'm gonna have you guys sign in. What I'd love for you guys to do is I don't want to hover. I don't want to hover on top of you guys. So what I'd like you guys to do, I'd like you guys to start from the top, work your way down. When we meet back in the kitchen, I'd love to be able to talk about what you like and don't like about it. Right? How many people have run an open house where they come down from the steps and they beeline it to the door? And you gotta chase them out the door. Hey, wait, what did you like? What did you not like? Right? Because they're almost like, I don't want to talk to that person again. Right? It happens. Do people run open houses here? Is that right? They're going for that door. Right? If you tell them what to do, I'm gonna have you start at the top, You're gonna walk down, we're gonna talk about it, we're gonna get to the bottom of the stairs. It's very hard for somebody to go for that door. Cause now they're going back on your verbal contract. When you tell people what the next step is, and they don't do it, they feel bad.
Now, do you feel like, because I think in most people that come to open houses, they feel like they know what they're doing and they don't really need you a lot of times, right? So if you say something like that, they come say, for example, they do feel like they have to say something to you, so they might go to like the front door and say to you, you know what? The kitchen actually wasn't big enough or something, and then they try to dart. Do you say to yourself, is it worth me going after to engage more to pull them back, or do you, because of like you can clearly see they just want to
To be
go?
honest, I've never had to do that. Never had somebody walk out without talking to me again. I'll tell you why, because I sent them upstairs. They haven't seen the basement, they haven't seen the back, and they haven't seen the kitchen yet. What's the most important room in the house? The kitchen. Where do you stand in an open house? Right? If you want to see this, you need to come through me. Do you hand out, how many flyers do you print for open houses? Do you print out the listing and the SPD and hand it out to people? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes.
From there.
One sheet and then you leave it in the,
I mean,
you hand it to them. Why do you hand it to them? You just gave them the treat.
I make sure they scan before they come in,
Mm-hmm.
and then when they scan, then I have to go unlock the door,
Mm-hmm.
and as I grade them, I do hand it to them, and then I talk them at their house. Maybe that's wrong. but-
If I'm training a dog and I hold the treat and I give you the treat, are you gonna listen to me? I've already given you the treat. So if I have the only seller's property disclosure and I have the only listing information, and it's printed out in a display on the kitchen counter next to me, if you want the treat, you gotta talk to me. Why am I gonna hand it to you? Right? So I have the value, I have the control, I have the house. If you want this, that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to educate you. If you feel like you can do this on your own on Zillow for 9 months, be my guest. But if you want guidance and you want control, that's our job. Right?
I think one thing that has really shifted everything for me is Alex. What he teaches is chase the no.
Chase the
That
no.
is gold. And it's like, if they say no, like, we don't need this, we don't, like, you have an agent or whatever it is, I don't really care. And it's being so detached from the outcome that it's like, I'm here to just provide value, whether or not you choose to go with me, whether or not you choose to continue to have a conversation with me, that's up to you. But I have nothing to lose. And coming at it from that mindset of I have nothing to lose and everything to gain, it changes how you navigate the open houses. Because like I used to be intimidated of these buyers, especially if they're short and they seem like they know what they're doing, but then they're not in the industry. They're not the expert. So when you hold yourself, and I talk about confidence because that's key. I really think that confidence is key to navigating these open houses in a successful manner. Because if you let them overshadow you, if you let their responses and their objections kind of bring you down, they're gonna sense it and they're gonna feel powerful. So it's like, no, like I'm the one that's hosting this open house for you. I'm doing you a service. You're coming into my open house because I'm hosting this. You can see the house and what value can I provide.
It sounds, when you say it out loud to people in the industry, it sounds arrogant, but you have to understand like this, it's really what's best for the client, right? If you have buyers, my average buyer is about 8 to 10 weeks. I don't have buyers for 6 months because I don't let them do 6 months. Because if you are ready to buy, we're going to get this so dialed in. Most buyers who go past 6 months have just kind of gotten discouraged and feel like there isn't guidance anymore, right? When people come to you almost everybody comes to you late to buy a house. People always are like, my lease is up in 4 months, right? It's like, whoa, you gotta give 2 months notice, and we gotta get pre-approved, and we gotta be under contract in literally 30 days to hit that renewal deadline. Right? People usually, they think about the agent at the last minute, right? So if somebody's been on the market for over a year, it's either because we didn't do a good enough process of educating on what was needed, maybe they didn't know all the closing costs, maybe they didn't really know what this process looks like. I've had people that have buyer intake where they're not ready yet, and that's okay. But once we go start to see homes, it's like 2 months. I only did 5 open houses last year. I got 5 clients from 5 open houses. Using this strategy, Julie picks up, one a weekend right now? Probably one every other weekend.
Yes, I mean, I won't say that, like, I feel like
Yeah.
that would be kind of like blowing it up. Like, Alex is I feel like he's a different breed when it comes to conversion. I would say though, the amount of hot leads that I have has scaled up considerably simply because of how the conversation goes.
And let's focus on why that's important for prospecting. Again, getting back to the topic. If all of your leads are of the same clientele in the same area on similar homes, what does that mean for you guys during your week? Go to task batching. I can service all of those people so much more efficient. Because I'm doing the same work for all of my clients. Right? If I'm sitting the same price point homes in the same area, around the same timeline, when everybody's asking me questions, I'm answering multiple people's questions with the same work. Versus if I'm in East Falls and I'm in, Yardley and I'm in Jersey and I'm in here, there's just no way to properly handle that business because you have to be an expert everywhere. Right? And most people, I think everybody can get there, but if I'm training agents on rebuilding business and rebuilding prospecting to make their life easier so they don't have to work or think they're working 60 hours a week. And it all goes into being efficient and intentional. Right? And that intention is who do I want to attack? And then how do I efficiently service that business and give guidance? And so if open houses is not your shtick, even though when we look at prospecting, what type of prospect is there? It's cold calls, there's circle prospecting, there's expires. There's been a successful agent in every one of these categories. So what's the difference? Because we as agents do this grass is greener on the other side, like, oh, it didn't work for a couple months, I'm gonna go to the next. So how are people successful in these? They just stick to one thing and they do it very, very aggressively and very efficiently. Right? So if somebody would just tell me, wrap this up, if somebody will just tell me what their mode of prospecting is, that it currently is, and I'll see if I can maybe help it a little bit. Maybe we can do like a live.
Yeah, I do spend, every morning, inspiring.
Okay. And what's your intention with Expired Missile?
Meaning, get the listing, but
Okay, that's a huge thing, because a lot of people just want to get the listing and they sit on it forever. When you do expired listings, what do you track your calls and your conversion rate, like your pickup rate,
Yeah, I don't do that well enough.
Okay, because this is a data business, guys. With prospecting, it is a data business. If you do 100 open houses, you need to know how many people came through the open house, how many conversations you had, how many people picked up your call the next week, and then how many people converted. Because if you don't know your conversion rate, you can't get better. Right? So if I am calling, it's a great example on people making the calls. Jason, a new agent of mine, $8 million agent came on our team. He's been doing this for 8 years. He's a cold call animal. He calls about 10 hours a week, cold calls, 2 hours a day, right? Which to a lot of people seems like a lot, and it is a lot. I said, how many pickups do you get? And he's looking at it and he's like, yeah, my pickup rate's like 10%. I'm like, okay, so how many hours did you do it? How many of these converted? And he started to realize that his problem was not making the dials, his problem was conversion. So when we're looking at this prospect and people say just make calls, well, yeah, great, but if you make all these calls and it doesn't turn into anything, we gotta find the point where the breakdown is. If you're not making the calls, then you can't get the conversations. If you're having the conversations and not setting appointments, then we need to get better at the setting appointments. If you're setting appointments and people are not showing up, then we have a problem conveying value. Because people are thinking, I don't need to show up for that appointment. If you're setting up appointments, people are showing up and then they're not signing contracts, right? Then that's what we need. So if you're making these calls and you track how many hours you make these calls, you got to see what your dollar per hour is on your conversion and see if there's a better dollar per hour elsewhere, right? So in expireds, do you find, how many calls would you say it takes you to get an expired listing? On average.
Yeah, I don't do, I do more of a dimensioning,
Okay.
so it could, sometimes it could take all week,
All week.
like an hour a day,
Okay.
including Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. And then that's to get the meeting or to get the listing?
Get the meeting
To get the meeting. On average, how many meetings convert?
lately,
50%. Okay, so it's 2 weeks of calling to get one listing. What's the average price point of the listings that you're expired calling?
it could be as low as 250 up to.
Okay. So that's pretty much, so you're going everywhere.
Yeah, 200 to lowest.
And when you do convert, what are you saying to people that makes them, what is typically the objection you handle that gets you to sign a contract? What is the one that sets a light bulb off? Because expired is.
Yeah, well, when I was at the meeting, I feel like, at least they're telling me, I'm more prepared than everybody else. Like, I'm presenting.
So they're
My
confident.
presentation is, and I'm showing them, like, I've done this before. I can do this again, and here's why.
So isn't that guidance?
I guess it's guidance.
Right? So they're literally expired, who is the most saturated cold call market in the industry, right? Because it's the easiest list to acquire, right?
Yeah.
They're looking at you saying you're guiding me better than other people. And that's why I love you, right? Do you tell some people sometimes that their house is not gonna, most expireds are overpriced, right? So how often are you going to expireds and saying, I need to list this at a lower price?
Yeah, that has come up a lot, and I would say, like, here's the number we need to be at. And then sometimes they're like, so shocked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't, like, I know where you listed before, that's a good brokerage, but they actually show you comps.
Yep.
And they're like, well, yeah, I'm like, well, there's nothing even close to this number now. So I'm telling you, they didn't show you comps, like, here's.
Or they did an auto-generated
Yeah,
CMA.
I go, here's the math, right here, right in front of you, and that's what we're gonna do on this thing, is this number here.
So I love that here's the math, right? Again, you don't have to like me. Let me show you the data. So I tell clients, even buyer clients, I say, there's a data number for houses, there's an emotional number. My job is to show you the data number. Your job is to associate the emotional number. If you want to put your kids through school for 18 years, you're gonna pay over the data number because that's the emotional value of the home to you. But I'm just gonna show you what the market says, and we can't, right? We can't argue that because that's what the market says. Anything above that, I'll work with you to find that emotional number. A lot of sellers that expire have too much emotional value in the home, right?
Yeah.
So we have to just say, hey, listen, I'm showing you the data. I'm not discounting your emotional value. I'm just saying the reason it didn't sell is because the emotional value exceeds the data value. So how can we together reduce that emotional value or find a strategy in which we can still maximize your profit, but get this thing sold? Now, a good number, he kind of like the pretty defensive expired listings. A good way to pull them out is to show them their operating costs or their run rate. right? So if somebody says, I'm not gonna do that, I'm gonna sit in the market for another 90 days. What is it costing them to sit on the market for 90 days? Right? They have taxes, they have insurance, they probably have some of them have mortgages. Right, what's your run rate? What's your burn rate? Do you really wanna keep it listed 10 grand over? I want you to lower it 10 grand and you're burning 3 grand a week, 3 grand a month. Like, if you come back to me in 3 months, you've already burned the 10 grand and now we still gotta drop it. So I'm trying to save you money by doing this the right way. Because your time is, right, what's the opportunity cost of your equity? Let's say they say, and this is all about educating, right, being beyond the door opener. Somebody owns the house outright, I own it for 300,000, it doesn't cost me anything, I don't need to sell it, fuck you, I don't have a burn rate. You have $300,000 in equity in that, what's the opportunity cost of $300,000 in equity? S&P over the last 50 years returns 10.5% on average. So you're missing 30 grand a year putting that money into the S&P. I'm not a financial advisor, speak to your financial advisor, but like, that's the data, I'll show it to you on a piece of paper. 300,000, if you go buy another investment property, is a down payment on usually investment 25 to 30% $1 million property. What do you think you can make in, let's say appreciation in this neighborhood is 2.5% a year. We go get you into $1 million property, you appreciate 2.5% a year, it's 25 grand. Why are we fucking around with 7 grand on this listing price? Let's go move on to the next opportunity that makes you more money. Right? Instead of trying to get blood from a rock here. And they're not gonna like it when you tell them the hard truth. But like, people don't love their parents when they tell them what they need to hear. Right? Like you're doing what you need to do to get them where they need to be. What do you actually want? What is, just as much as you're trying to set an intention with prospecting, what is the seller's intention? Right? If your intention is to move on or take care of a family member or do this, I'm gonna get you there. Your intention is not to sell it for this price. It's nobody's intent. Right? Because if that's what you want to do, you can stay on the market by yourself and put some pictures up and you'll be fine. Right? So, coming at it with actually getting people where they need to be in your prospecting, finding the area in which you want to prospect, and then showing people that, like, guiding them through this through this process is going to convert you so much faster than just making calls. Right? So it's going to be on guidance, it's going to be on intention, and it's going to be on realizing that I don't need anybody to like us. I need people to have their services met. Right? Because a different prospect class would say, go make these calls, go do this, go do that. Come back and tell me what happened. It's going to be, you spend a lot of time making no money. Like everybody's done it. Everybody's tried prospecting for 3-4 months and nothing's coming. So it's not, I want, if anything you guys got from this, stop being tied to the result. Stop being, stop thinking that just doing the action is going to cause the result, right? Like just making the calls. Be intentional about it, break it down, create value, create guidance, and I'm going to put my email up. Go track your numbers, email, bring them back to me. Say, this is my results. This is what I did. What would you do for me? Right? How would you get better results? And we can pick that apart and we can get better results because I've done it with 6 out of 6 people that have done that to me so far. So my record's okay.
Yeah, nobody's done better. I've
Yeah.
heard those conversations.
So I don't know. Not the typical presentation, so thank you for bearing with me, but it's about making you guys, what are we here? What's our intention of being real estate agents? To provide for our family and to live a better, everybody got in this industry to have flexibility, and then you go here and you work 6 hours a week and you make less money. Why? That's not why you got into this business. You got into this business to have flexibility to make more money and not have a ceiling. Right? So I think that, reset your intention, figure out why you're here. Do the hard part, which is setting a schedule, right? And then audit what you're doing, audit your time and use me as a resource. Send me an email. Try to piece it together.
What are some of the tools that you use for prospecting, like any specific, what has been?
All of that is, in my opinion, bullshit.
So what do you, how do you call people? You call just, people that you know?
So you're making a list, right? You're making a list. Let's say what list that is, a 6-man buyer list, whatever. If I'm breaking down the easiest way to prospect, I go for the least, lead to sale. What is the shortest lead to sale? The shortest lead to sale is an open house. That's somebody that's already in the market, right? Open houses will convert lead to sale faster than any other lead source because they're already intending on buying, right? If you want to go back, then you chase life events, right? You find, I'll say this to everybody, because we did whatever. We do wedding expos. We do wedding expos because why? Because people get married and they move in together. And whether they're ready to buy or not, they need to move in together. It's a life event, right? I know people who successfully do obituaries. We gotta sell. It's a life event. Nobody lives in that house anymore. Pull the list off of that, right? So you can find this life event. You can do graduations at college, right? You can go pull a list of seniors at Temple and hit a whole first time buyer course on them. Just bring them in, educate them, and when they're ready, you roll with that, right? Those 4 things is a better prospecting plan than many people ever have because it's like you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Chase the people that are already in the act of buying. We're not trying to convince. You'll never force someone to buy a home. You'll never convince somebody to buy a home. You only help them buy a home.
I mean, I can appreciate what you're saying because, you know, a lot of times we think about, like you say, like call just sold, or when you have an account circle, call the neighborhood. To be honest with you, I don't like cold calling.
Yep.
I always felt like I had to, but I would always say to myself, I'm going to sit on this phone for 4 hours just to get someone's phone number.
Yep.
I don't know if they're going to really like,
Yeah.
it just seems like such a waste of time. I want the quicker source, which makes sense.
Your quickest source is open house.
So basically, you're saying
Yeah.
is cut all the fat and all the wasting your time. Call
Cut
all
all
these
the shit.
people, go straight to the people who are more inclined to buy, sell sooner than tracking and nurturing these people for years.
If you want to buy let's say you want to buy a Volvo, are you gonna just go up to everybody on the street that owns a Volvo and say you want to sell me your Volvo? You can go to a place that sells Volvos.
Yeah.
It's crazy that people circle prospect neighborhoods. You know, like you moved in here just sold. You moved in here 3 years ago. Do you want to sell? First off, the whole just sold thing is broken right now because if they bought, everybody puts a filter on it and says, I'm going to prospect just solds that bought in the last 5 years. If they bought it 5 years ago, they have a 3% interest rate. They're not fucking selling. Your likelihood of getting that just sold is like half what it historically has been because there's no reason for them to leave. Right? There's no reason for them to leave. Now, my attack on a just sold, if I know that you're not going to sell somebody on a sale of a 3% property, would be you call those people. They most likely are going to say, I have a really low interest rate. I'm not going to leave this house. And you say, listen, are you not leaving this house because of the interest rate or because you don't need to leave? They're going to say, well, I want more space, but I can't leave this interest rate. Okay. That's their pain point. Let's solve that. What's the market rent for that property? Right? If that market rent exceeds your mortgage by 125%, 75% of your rental rate covers your mortgage, then that house is off your books. You can go buy another house with no debt. That doesn't have your debt income at all. And some people that I've done, where we've done that process, they actually cash flow above that 75%, which means when they go to get pre-approved for that next home, their pre-approved is higher renting out their home than if they had sold it. Right? So now I've given you more pre-approval for your next home and you've created a real estate portfolio instead of me just selling your house. But if you attack people that don't want it or don't need it, it's gonna be so much harder to convert that business. So yeah, social prospecting, I don't love it, people are successful at it. I think I like to show people, what works the quickest, because what I don't want you guys to do is to spend 6 months not making money. Right? So open house, every one of you guys, every listing agent I've ever met that does over $10 million doesn't want to sit there open houses, and I think it's crazy. Go call them.